All right, fellas, 25cc craftsman. So let's take this journey together, right? So I have a series on worst machines on the planet, best machines on the planet, and also like my two-stroker stuff where I talk about the possibilities of rebuilding them and fixing them and whatever, and whether or not it's worth it. So this episode is, well, as I try to swear off doing this stuff, but occasionally, depending on what time of year it is and if I have any extra time, maybe it's a possibly new customer or whatever. Somebody comes to you, can you fix this, right? We're going to talk about that in a minute. And I'm going to show you a little bit deeper look inside of some of the things that I find in this particular machine here of what you can find going on with the machine. And what are some of the first signs? So whether you're a customer or your friend gives you one, you find it on the side of the road, or you yourself have committed these sins, something to look for when you suddenly decide that you look at this machine and you think, oh, I can save some money. Well, I'll get this fixed. I don't want to buy anything new. Let's take a look at that right now. Stay tuned. All right, what to look out for, fellas. So first start, before we get started, quick backstory, customer. If it's a customer that comes to you and you want to start a little shop or whatever, there are opportunities for doing this. But again, be careful. And I know others have videos out on this kind of stuff, but I'm going to approach it from a little bit of a different angle. Like I said, we're going to go in there. We're going to take a look a little bit closer. And let's see. This is the customer now. He goes, I'll tell him yes. Yeah, he's actually... So I'm going to go through it. So he's trying to get some equipment together for his son. Just bought a house. Congratulations that you just paid $500,000 for a house that I paid $130,000 for years ago. Crazy times, right? So because things are getting difficult, people are looking for ways to save money. Some people are cheap, right? And there's a difference. He says he's going to stop by and I'll give him his machine back because it doesn't work. I can't get it to work. $25 minimum charge. Some places will charge you $50, $60, $100. They want everything up front. But, let's say we believe him and he's a good person. He seemed like he's all right and he needs other stuff done. And I've told him at the beginning that these things generally don't come back. Right? We generally don't do these. And that's important. So I want to make this clear. So if you're somebody, a small engine guy like me, and you're responsible, if you're trying to do this for yourself, consider this, right? You might say, well, I don't do those, and I just reject those. And look, if you work for somebody else and it's this is your second job or whatever, you don't care. If you're trying to make your way in life working for yourself, that is the absolute wrong attitude. You have the luxury of having that. I don't give a shit. Tell them to go up. And there goes the air compressor. You have the luxury to say that. But if you're trying to bring work in and you got to think about, I used to say to my old partner in the other business we had for many years, I said, what's as important as the job that we have right now? And he'd go, I don't know. I said, the next job. Because without the next job, we're out of business. Cha-ching, right? Mic drop, because that's true. So you don't want to waste your time and you don't want to hurt yourself and you don't want to chase a potential customer away. And the worst, it's really unfortunate and kind of sad to tell a customer, give him disappointing news that his lawnmower garden equipment child thing died on the lawn, right? Like it's dead, right? You hate saying that. You want to be the person that can fix just about anything. And I like to steal the line from my friend authors that I can fix just about anything except for a broken heart. I can fix it, but no, it's not. It's a waste of time. And that's why we're going to get into a little bit more of some of the things I see. And I have possibly some other videos I'll put out, and I already have some. But I want to just start off with just the perspective. Now, if you're doing this for yourself, well, if you've committed all the sins that we're going to go take a look at, not treating it right, not maintaining it properly, not putting it away properly, then at some point you can expect that you can go out there. Whether you have limited knowledge or advanced knowledge, you may not be able to go out there and bring it back to life. It just might not happen. Okay. Hold on, let me just tell him. We'll pause it here. Hold on, let me just tell him. Well, he says he'll be right over. Okay, so, and we're going to go through what I did in the diagnostic procedure to see possible some of the signs that it might come back. But those signs can be misleading. They can lead you down a very dirty highway, right? And they'll get you to waste more time. Now, there's a difference, obviously, between a customer or your friend or your neighbor that wants to save money because they're cheap, and that cheapness is driving them to come over or drop the thing off to get you involved into their cheapness. I don't know if that's the case, but I'm saying that is a possibility. I have seen that. And, well, that's a psychological profile, and there are probably a lot of channels that will help you with psychologically profiling people. Maybe that's a skill you already have, and you can say, oh, no, they can't get over on me. All right, good for you. So we'll stay a little. I just wanted to mention that because it's a possibility. But the other side is he mentioned that he's got some stuff laying around in the garage. He'd like to give some of it to his son. Things are expensive. He just bought a new house. They're ridiculously expensive right now. So people will be even more tapped when they try to move forward with their lives. And he's trying to find a way to help. And that could be really his motivation. Since that's what he tells me, I don't know the person. This might be a new customer. That very well may be the position he has, and it might be true. So let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Now, how far can we go? Well, we're going to start off with a compression test. And just to save a little bit of time here in the intro, I told him, I said, if we do an initial compression test, I like to see 100 pounds minimum. But your first compression test may be a lie. And you'll see here in this segment coming up that it's very sticky. And the cord's getting stuck because it's been left out. It's full of filth. And that's one of your signs is what kind of grease do we see? What kind of dirt do we see? Do we see black dirt grease? Now, that's an indication, and we're going to look a little closer in a minute at that. That's a potential sign that there's something else wrong. They do leak from the gas cap and from the fuel lines when they go bad, et cetera, et cetera. But that doesn't tell the whole story, so we want to go in a little bit further. It passed the initial compression test, and as I said to him, I like to put some of my magic sauce in there, my transmission sauce, pull it over, kind of get it loosened up. The rings can be sticky. It's that glue, that mung, that it might be giving you a false reading. And if you clean it out, you might notice that suddenly the compression came down quite a bit. And if it comes down below 100, throw it out. Don't go any further. And this one was like 100. And then we take the back off and we start to see. So we can see all of that filth in there, and it's just an absolute mess. And the question is, well, why is that? You see it inside the engine. Well, that's carbon. There's a tremendous amount of carbon there. And could it be dirt like filth from the outside? It doesn't look like that is the case, but carbon, it means it hasn't been running right in a long time. If it's been running at all, I mean, the question is, where does that come from? But as we go to look a little bit closer in to where the pull starter is, that's the output side of the shaft, the crankshaft. And there's a lot of buildup in and around there. And that could be a serious problem. Right in this area over here is where we're going to see some issues. All right, I always like to keep some old solvent around that's been cleaned. There doesn't seem to be any spark arrestor, but we might want to go in there. But I peeked in there, I don't see any scoring. I was actually able to see a bit. That looks better. Let's pull it over. Just rinse it as best you can down through the top, in through there. It may be leaking. It could be leaking on the front seal, and that may be another reason why we see a lot of gook. It's hard to say. It's never been cleaned. It's an older model. It's hard to say. If that's the case, it will not run right. So I'm cleaning the back section of it, which is the seal here, which, like I said, this is the crankcase cover, right? That plastic piece. Sometimes it's a separate piece. It just covers over. Sometimes it's metal. Some don't have it like that at all. Let's do a compression test now. When you clean the gunk out, and as you see here, you have to clean the gunk out. We're gonna leave that. You'll never get it running. Then the rings won't seat. So let's find out. She's just 75/8. Just makes 100. Yeah, a little bit over. So I often say, I like to see at least 100, but all right, so we might be okay here, but like I said, we could have a leak in front, and that could be one of the reasons why all this filth is all over it. And now you won't get a good mixture, so she won't run right. So a lot of times these things, they don't come back. It's not worth your time and your effort. You can just go do something else, buy something else. People don't take care of these. They sit and they'll just never run again. So what we'll do next is I'll put that back on. I'll just clean it off. I'll screw it back in, and we're gonna feed it with some fuel. Put the plug back and see if we can just feed it. So as you can see here, the compression is not great. Not at all. It's very borderline. And as I mentioned, okay, when you start cleaning that, gunk out, and now that we got the diarrhea out of there, we're left with something that is very questionable at this point. And this is an easy thing to do. At this point now, you've got no money invested, no real time in it. So this is where I showed him these pictures on my cell phone, my other phone, and he starts to see, right? So then the narrative plays out, the messaging, and he's getting a better picture. So even if I said, and it might be a while before I get back to it because it was raining a lot, and at the point it was raining so hard I couldn't open the doors or the windows. But later on that day, it did let up a little bit, and I was able to try to fire this thing up. So what we're going to do here is we're going to bottle feed it with some good two-strokes, like 92 octane. And what I noticed is something I can't really show you, which is it started to puke backwards. And there is an episode I did a while back on, this is called reversion. And four-strokers, when the valves are not sitting right, they're not sealing right, the pressures will back up and puke out the charge of air, fuel and air backwards. And that's how you get a backfire. That's actually what a backfire is when that catches flames, unlike some of the old motors and stuff that we used to do with carburetors. The timing is off or whatever, but that can happen from valves. In this case, it's a two-stroker, so it has reed valves. It's a kind of a valve. But what I noticed was that if it's puking back, that's not good. And on that four-stroke lawn boy that I show, which I might even put a little tag, you can find it though. It's a four-stroke old school lawn boy that was just commercial. That was just rode so hard, and I did get it running. It was very poor performance. It was barely making any good RPMs, and I got the camera in close, and you can see it. It's reverting backwards. It's reversion, and you could see the charge being puked back out. Of course, if it's puking out, you're never going to make any real power. You're never going to get any RPMs. It's kind of like eating. You're never going to gain any weight if you keep puking out your food. And there are people that do that. So in the case of an engine, it can't run, which means it's not sucking properly. And that's what the problem might be with the front seal. Now, the rear seal, what I did was I put a little bit of RTV on it. I cleaned it up really good, and I put everything back again. I had taken it apart one more time so I could put the gas tank on. We put the fuel lines on. I went over the carburetor. We'll take a quick look at the carb. But there's really nothing to see. There was nothing to see in there. There wasn't anything wrong with it. I did replace the diaphragm, and I even tried, I thought maybe the gasket was not in the right place, and I turned the gasket around. I tried again. I tried a few things, okay? So it would not run. It wouldn't matter what I did. What we're going to do now is we're going to bottle feed it. And although I can't show you the reversion completely in here, on that old four-stroker, it was because the valves had receded down into the head, banging on it for so many hours that they weren't sealing properly. They didn't have enough gap at the end of the valve clearance. That was gone for the most part, and it wasn't even closing properly. That's valve recession. So this is a different thing, but this is something that a novice might not notice, and that's the point I'm trying to make. Even if you have some experience with small engines, with car engines, it's different. And four-strokes, it's very different. And especially if you've been working on a lot of these over many, many years, it does look different on a two-stroke. And even people that have been doing it a long time may not notice this, but I saw something else. Let's just run that segment. You'll see it'll run very strong. That might give you hope. And as I said earlier, that could be the false hope that'll keep you going down this road. And that's why I wound up trying to rebuild the carburetor. After the segment, I tried to rebuild it. And it doesn't matter. Let's get to this segment. It's going to smoke. A little two-stroke in. Hey, hold on. Gotta tighten that up. I forgot. Sounds like it wants to run. Almost. Hold on. Sounds kind of strong. Yeah, she does kick back a little bit. All right. It sounded strong, but we're pouring fuel in. Will it be enough to suck on this carburetor properly? So we'll pull the carburetor next, and it's getting a little bit late, but we'll pull the carburetor next and we'll rebuild it and we'll find out. I'll see you guys in a minute. All right, so I put the back on and there was some more debris inside. It's carbon mostly, really, because we've been cleaning it and we revved it up or whatever, and it blew carbon around in there. And that's going to screw up the charge a bit. We got the carburetor back on and the gas tank, and I made sure it was clean, and I put new hose in. I blew out his filter. I put a little bit more silicone around that gasket because I noticed it looked like it might have even been leaking a little bit, which is another problem. And somebody had silicone on it. I don't know if somebody's been in here before. The gasket might be upside down on the diaphragm. That's something to consider. So I replaced it the way it was, but it's not usually the way it works. But it didn't look like anybody really was in here, and I doubt they were. But it could be. You don't know. I mean, you don't know. I don't remember. I don't do a lot of these. So a little bit of RTV with the gasket. Gasket got to be really clean. Clean the surface is good. And then I kind of, pulled RTV around the gasket. I forgot to show it. I got distracted because I'm trying to do a bunch of different things. Let it sit out for 10 minutes or so. Let the air get at it. And then I assembled it. So now, if this is plumbed correctly, this should fill up with fuel. So we got fuel in it. I clean the plug. There it goes. All right, let's bring it out. I clean the plug. He doesn't get a new plug, not for the money, right? This is gift work, okay? I don't recommend necessarily doing it, but we'll talk about that later. Let's bring it out. Give a little throttle. Nope. Take the throttle off. Not getting anything. See? Yeah, she's having a fuel issue. We might have to turn that gasket around. I think it's in the wrong way. Now, I do have other videos on stuff like this, so go through my folders and stuff. Nobody does that, Arch. Do lazy. Arch, we're not going to do that. We're too having lazy. Look, fellas, I'm trying to help you out. Pay attention. Some of these things, the Echoes and some of the other machines, I have a video coming out on that soon. I was able to bring it back. Some of these machines you can do. And let me get you out on this. Look, a lot of these, especially the cheaper ones, they are disposable units, and the guy came by and he left it here. And we were talking about this kind of stuff, and he did mention, we talked about the mixture and everything. He goes, well, I'm a real stickler about that. He goes, if anything, I might be accused of putting a little too much oil in. I said, well, that might account for all that extra carbon in there. I said, because some people say that I've heard other mechanics say that too much oil is a problem as well. Well, that might be explain why all that carbon is in there. And he didn't say how much more oil he put in there. But again, as I've mentioned, if the owner doesn't get the mixture right, that could lead to issues with the engine. There's so many variables. And look, you can keep pulling on this thing to kingdom come. All right, and it's not gonna come back. How long do you want to spend pulling on it? You pull it.
Pull it.
You pull it.
Twist it. Pull it.
So I can't. You give it a certain amount of time. You try a little bit, and as I said, if you're whether you're trying to start a little business or run a small business like me, and I would like to have some more customers, I may get this guy. He might become a customer. I brought him in the back. For certain people, I'll do that. He was a nice guy, and I think he volunteers at the fire department on the other town. He was talking about some stuff there. We started talking about batteries. He says, I bought a battery-powered weed whacker, and he said it doesn't have the power that this one had, even this little guy. He's like, you start getting into the weeds. He says, any kind of thick stuff, and like his son's place has got some of the overgrown. I guess the previous owners, let some areas go. He says, that battery power, it just dies. You put it in there, and it bogs down, and it's done. These are discussions for another time. You might want to check out my live stream. And me and the fellas like to hang out, and we like to talk about this kind of stuff and share our experiences. A lot of heavy hitters that come in. A lot of people that I know that do this both on YouTube and professionally, and we all get to chat. Questions and answers get answered. And, of course, a quick plug for Ken Small Engines. If you really want, like you have a particular question and I don't want to answer it or I don't answer it or whatever, you can go check out his live show on Saturdays. Where him and a whole bunch of fellas like to answer all that stuff. I do answer some questions. I don't do a live question and answer, but we will, we do like to talk about small engines and stuff. And a lot of those fellas, stop in and they're hanging out in the background. So lots of people are willing to help you on this. But give it a shot. I'm not going to say don't do it. I can't tell you exactly which machines. All I'm trying to do is give you some tips and tricks. And hopefully this is helpful. See you on the next episode of Archer's Garage. Hit the like and subscribe. See you guys later.